Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be talking Swanton Village issues today. Happy to have three folks, no strangers, here on the set. Jean LeBombard, a Swanton Village trustee, Village President Neil Spear, and Village Manager Bill Sheets. Thanks for the time, folks.
Thank you.
Again, just kind of dull times in Swanton. You must really have to think hard about what's going on, what we could talk about. I'm kidding, of course. A lot of things going on in Swanton these days. I guess let's start with we'll be talking a lot about this. Town meeting day coming up on March 5th. I should note, we're taping this show on Thursday, January 18th, in case there are any huge issues that come up and you're wondering why we haven't talked about it. But town meeting day, March 5th, the annual Swanton Village meeting. And Trustee, Gina, are you up for re-election? Who's up this time around?
Chris Leach is finishing his tenure.
Okay.
He's been, I think, involved as a trustee for
a long time.
25 or 26 years.
Wow.
Maybe 27.
Have we got another candidate or two out there?
We hear that there's some activity, but there's nothing definite at this point.
I guess the filing deadline, Jan 29, I believe, so it's still a little ways down the road. So a change on the village trustee, that'll be the first change in a while.
Yeah, I think Adam Paxton is the one with the most experience, and that's like 15, 16 years.
Wow, so a change coming up. Well, hopefully another candidate will surface. If per chance nobody did surface, you folks could appoint somebody, if that's what it came down to, if nobody filed for that office.
Has
that come up before? Has ever run into that?
I've never heard of it.
When a trustee resigns, we can appoint someone. Yeah. Whether the term ends, I'm not sure what.
I would hope you'd be able to. I suspect you. Anyway, hopefully it won't come to that.
That's a good question.
Yeah. It is a good question.
Interesting.
I've never approached it before.
Yeah, hopefully it won't come to that.
Maybe we put out an application for it.
I think we're going to have a competitive race.
Yeah?
Yes.
So you might, a contest. It's been years since there's been any contests in the village, hasn't there?
And that's the same. The last one, I think, was Adam Paxman.
Is that right?
And Miss Washburn.
Okay, yep, I do remember that.
Yeah.
And Neil, are you looking to hang in for another year?
I'm running again, yes.
Oh, okay.
I think I've been there since '99 with a 2-year reprieve when Ron Kilburn.
Mr. Kilburn jumped in for a couple of years, right?
And I think I originally signed up for it because of the downtown was dying, and over the years it's been a struggle, but we're at a point now where a lot of positive things could be happening, and I want to be involved in it because I've been involved this long, and I am my construction business. I'm semi-retired, so I can devote more time to our community, I think. So I'm up for the challenge, and we have a good team put together, really good team in the village. So.
Well, so semi-retired, so
yeah,
interesting. But you still sounds like
my son is keeping me busy.
Oh yeah, interesting. Will he keep the business going? In fact, or
no. He has a job for me.
He's got
he bought a house in Waterbury.
Sorry,
and I'm remodeling that. So.
No, is that right? I got you. Wow. So your company. Not going to be around maybe for too much longer?
It's going to be around, but it's going to be downsized.
Okay.
Because, like a lot of other businesses, I can't find the help, dependable help.
Well, it sounds like you have plenty of company with that, huh?
But I have, I'm not trying to get off subject, but I have enough of my own clientele from past business that if I can keep them satisfied, that's what I'll do.
Hey, good for you.
But Neil Spear Construction is not going out of business.
Yeah, good. Well, let's make that clear, right? That's good. Obviously, the huge issue, you've all been immersed with this, the new public safety building and other stuff going on. In fact, I talked to Earl Fournier, talked to the Swanton Town folks, Earl and Brian Savage, the other day. But I guess I might as well jump right into that. The big issue on the ballot for for village people, for the village. March 5th is the public safety. And again, boy, I guess the price tag, I guess the term sticker shock jumps into my mind. I can only assume you run into that a bit, but Bill, why don't you get us going with that?
Yeah, we can cover a lot of ground. We could take the entire hour.
I'm sure
right
you
here.
can. Yeah.
So we've had a total now of 19 open houses.
Sounds like you've worked really hard to try to get the public involved with this to see what you're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah, that's our intent.
Yeah.
So over 19, we have completed
Wow.
19 of 37 open houses.
Is that so about halfway there? You got another 18?
Correct.
Wow.
And they range anywhere from 3 hours to 5 hours and 20 minutes. So that includes, a PowerPoint presentation. We try to articulate and educate, and then we do a tour. So we do have a departure from our original ask of $19.9 million.
Okay.
So this is, you're getting the exclusive, and it will go on social media.
We appreciate
that. Starting this afternoon.
Huh.
So we hear our citizens, in particular the folks that would be most impacted by this, which are the voters in the village.
Yeah.
And based on that, the trustees have decided to only seek permission to bond for phase 1, which is the creation of the public safety facility next door at 124 First Street.
Yeah.
So we would remove over $5 million off the ask. So instead of 19.9 and change, it's 14.8 million. It will allow us long term to meet all of the goals and address the root cause. And again, the root cause, Richard, is we're simply out of space.
And I would guess you're not running into, I'm sure there are obviously plenty of people concerned about price tags with taxes, whatever. I would guess you're not running into too many people who are telling you you don't need more space. I wouldn't think you're hearing that too much.
It depends, so like any vote, any community, the most ardent detractors are very vocal.
Sure. Have some of those folks shown up? Have they been coming to these public meetings?
They're certainly not shy, and we actually appreciate the opportunity to have the dialogue with them.
Yeah.
Same thing, your most vocal supporters, and then there's a massive amount of voters that are in the middle that we're trying to reach and educate.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. So the price tag has just come down a bit.
It has.
But again, maybe explain this with that $5 million that's out. Are you not doing all what's not going to happen? Again, you're just down to phase 1 now.
So phase 1 is, as you recall, using ARPA funds, we bought the contiguous property next door, 124 First Street, for $400,000, and hired an architect and a construction manager, and outlined the plan of what we wanted to do. The only part we want to do at this point is phase 1, which is take the fire department and the police department, move them next door to that new site. Phase 2 was going to include, as soon as phase 1 was done, we were going to go full speed ahead and do the renovations that we wanted to on the existing complex at 121st Street.
Yeah. We're
going to hold on that.
Okay. So we're just talking what you're trying to do for fire and police departments and the complex itself, nothing else at the moment with this vote coming up.
That's correct. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. And that was, you're just running into just a lot of folks, I assume, saying it just, again, sticker shock kind of with the 19.9 mil.
Well, the reason we're having so many open houses is we're trying to reach as many people as we can and prove that we need extra space. We know it's a sticker shock. I mean, we're not trying to hide that.
Yeah.
But and we hired a professional that knew what we needed in order to move forward.
Yeah.
But there is. I think everybody that's come to our open houses, pretty much the majority anyways, agree that we need more space to operate efficiently and safely.
Yeah.
Now, the price of that is what is the bulkhead, the main problem. And we've listened to people and come up with this proposal, this revised proposal, hoping that we can at least reach the public safety end of it.
Yeah.
And but we're concerned with the price too, and up front, like Bill has been saying at the open houses, we're presenting worst case scenario. This is the top dollar that we got the prices, we got all the requirements, so we can present it to the voters or whoever shows up at our open houses. And we're not saying, we're hoping that if we move forward with any phase of the project, that the funding will really offset the cost. That's what we have, some predictions that we can decrease the amount of the bond, but we have to have approval for the project first.
Right. So again, I guess as you just said, that $14.8 million is the highest worst case scenario, and ideally, from your point of view, you could maybe get that down somehow.
Right.
Yeah, and in fairness, I believe firmly we have an obligation to the voters to give worst case scenario. There's zero guarantees for any of these grant funds, but the biggest, most beneficial one we're chasing is USDA. If we were to get awarded that, it not only comes with a low interest rate, 17% loan forgiveness. Wow. Over $3 million just disappears.
Wow.
But there's no guarantee. And then there are other identified funding sources, albeit it's a stretch. It's very hard to identify federal and state funding sources for public safety facilities.
Really?
Actually, the renovations, there are more funds available for that. But for the 14.8, we remain very hopeful that we would at least be in the running for USDA, because that is a massive score if we're able to secure that.
Interesting. I would guess my old friend Heidi Bridge-Valenta might be doing a little work on this these days.
She certainly is.
Probably a lot of work.
Yes.
So that's at least a possibility out there.
Correct.
So I'm sure that's kind of probably discouraging not to go for the whole thing, but can the complex can get by for a while longer without renovation changes to the complex, I guess.
Our ultimate goal is that this project impact all 5 parts of the organization that are housed there. So it's fire, it's police, it's public works, it's electric, and then it's administrative and our customer service support professionals. So we know that by at least getting phase 1, we have a plan in place that will address all of that. We're now up to 40 employees full-time, 9 part-time and 28 volunteers, professionals in the fire department, and it's a lot of people don't realize that. In fact, village voters don't always realize that.
And I might interject into that. That building was made for 50 years ago, the workforce we had 50 years ago, and that workforce has increased, like Bill says. We just don't have the space.
Yeah, that was good old U.S. EDA, Economic Development Administration money, I believe, for the Swanton complex. Is that where?
I have no idea.
I think that's what, because I think it was also the Highgate complex and the Highgate Arena. I think as I vaguely recall, whatever, irrelevant, I guess. But yeah, so Swanton Village, obviously, it's become a bigger, a lot more complex. Jean, you want to jump into this? Does this make sense to you to just go for phase 1, not go for quite as much?
I do agree with it. I think that we can phase in the second portion of it over the years, and we can get along in that building. And whenever we have any excess funds or something, we'd probably use them for some remodeling or moving people around. I mean, right now, you mentioned Heidi. She's got a little corner in the auditorium.
Is that right?
And whenever anybody's there for a meeting or what have you, she has to locate elsewhere or listen to something that she doesn't want to hear. But anyway, that's just an example. And one of the things that's impressed me over the years, of course, is the need for the police department expansion. My goodness, I mean, it was designed for one officer. And he used to work only at night, if I remember correctly. And golly, now I forget how many police officers we have exactly. Can you remember, Bill?
Of course I can.
6, 7.
We have 8 full-time and 6
full-time.
Yes.
And I know you've said this is the only fully staffed PD in the state, Bill. I think you've said that before.
Newport City PD has joined us.
No, is that right? Newport City's jumped into.
Yes. Yep, so they're
Great.
fully staffed.
Interesting situation in Newport. They've had some issues with mayor, the elected mayor who didn't last too long, and supposedly looking for, I got the Chronicle, which is probably the best weekly paper, I think, in Vermont, and then a city manager search, and that seems to have disappeared. But anyway, nothing to do with you guys, but.
Coming back to...
Yeah, sorry.
Good, that's okay. It's good to get the information out there.
Yeah.
Also looking ahead, this building is going to be something in the order of 40 to 50 year shelf life.
Yeah.
And that's what we're dealing with right now. We're near the end of 50 years on the existing one. And good thing about all of this is that we have grown and expanded and provided better service to the people.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see in the future. And I'm thinking ahead at this point in time. I'm not going to look back. Why? You learn from what you did wrong.
Yeah.
But I think the future is the need for fire protection, police protection, safety issues. In the case of the police department, you talk about the work that they have to do these days and all the business and paperwork that goes along with anything that they're dealing with. And the fire department, something that I wasn't really watching over the past few years was the fact that, there was a safety issue, say, with a fire, obviously, but there's also one after the fire where you have to make sure that you don't contaminate yourself or others after you've been exposed to something. And I understand that with a proposal for a lot of these electric vehicles, we're going to have some possible electric fires from these batteries, and the remnants of the combustion aren't good. That's what I understand. Yeah. At any rate, so we should do something about that. Yeah. Why wait? Yeah. Let's do it now before we get into big trouble of some sort.
And again, an expansion of the police department, getting a lot of reference with obviously conversations with Swanton Town and having just talked to the Swanton Town folks. I guess they're on the ballot in the town will be the proposal to kick up coverage and more expense for the town. I guess 10 hours a day coverage instead of the current 8.
That's correct.
7 days a week.
That's correct. 70 hours a week. Yes.
7 hours a week. And again, that's because are you shifting? Seems like Earl Fournier mentioned shifting from 8-hour shifts to 10-hour shifts.
Yeah. So we had done that prior to. So for many, many years, we have been candidly providing a contract for services for Swanton Town where we were essentially having a loss, recognizing a loss. So pretty critically important for us to make the adjustment for that to recognize the way that we're shifting. So we in the village we moved to 10-hour shifts essentially to make it easier on employees. 8-hour shifts were more days in a calendar year worked, less days off, less weekends off, quality of life concerns. And you need to take care of those concerns or you're going to start losing officers. So we went to a 10-hour shift that seems that we've been there over a year, seems to be much more effective. So that mirrors the coverage for 10 hours. So it made really no sense to offer any contract that would allow somebody to work 8, come back, work the remaining 2 on behalf of the village. So 10 hours literally mirrors it at night. Affords a backup for either side in the event that there's a critical incident, and it really works most effectively with our schedule. The other contract increases that are significant are that Vermont State Police no longer dispatch for free. We were forced to move over to St. Albans Central. $65,000 a year introductory offer.
Is that a recent development?
January 1st of this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting.
And it's the cost of doing business, and policing is not cheap. And starting a policing department is even more expensive. At least we have the structure to build upon. And then the insurance, we are trying to add 1 full-time officer and 1 full-time administrative assistant. And then literally the hours and the shifts that we provide for the town are 1/3 of the cost of the entire department. So it's really easy to make that demonstration whether you're looking at an org chart or you're simply having the conversation. So 1/3 of the chief's time and demands, 1/3 of dispatching costs. So that's why we arrived at a fair and equitable contract of $475,000 annually. And that's for the 70 hours a month.
Right, and I know that's a significant increase for the town, but I know, again, talking to Earl Forney or Brian Savage, gets the selectmen are definitely on board with that. And Earl makes clear, hey, we realize, cost of doing business. So it sounds like the select board, I think they think, or they're hoping they're going to get a positive vote on that. Down the road, we've talked about this before, down the road, you would like to see ideally Swanton Town and the Village basically be 50-50 on police coverage. Bill, Neil, Jane, or?
We would see that, but whether they would or not.
Right, I think it sounds like
I might clarify what Bill was saying. The town came to us for increased police coverage because they had heard concerns from their constituents that they needed more police coverage. Okay. So that's what initiated this in the first place. Yeah. And that's been batted back and forth in the town for years, and we initially told them what it was going to cost for the same coverage as the village had, and that was even worst case scenario as far as money goes. Yeah. They agree on the coverage, but the cost is something else. So we ended up with this proposal for 10 hours, 7 days, and like you say, the select board did approve of that. Yeah. I assume they're going to put that on their warning.
Yeah, they said that'll be on the ballot for. It's probably worth noting. We talked Swanton Village, Swanton Town. All Swanton Village residents, for the record, are also residents of Swanton Town. Mm-hmm. Correct. Obviously, the village residents are just those folks who live in the village. But again, the 14.8 million, that's just a village vote. That's just villagers voting on that. Correct. But the proposal for the town for kicking it up to 10 hours a week, that'll be everybody in Swanton voting on that.
That'll be just the town voters that vote on that.
Just the town.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so not the village voters. No,
right. That's correct.
Well, I guess I'm confusing myself here for some reason.
Yeah. Okay. And that's sadly, there's probably a lot of candidly unnecessary confusion. Yeah. The discussion about mirrored police coverage, about 24/7 for anybody, is at least a year away. And when you watch things and you go back and you watch, for example, the town meeting to talk about the future of policing. Clear confusion. Our police department was not present there. They were not invited there. Many questions were left unanswered. Very clearly this year, the only thing that we're looking for is the hope that our voters come in and consider the bond, but as importantly, approve of our budget that was presented to include policing. And then on the town side, when you walk in, there's going to be one article: shall the voters of the town of Swanton approve a 10-hour a day, 70-hour a month contract in the amount of $475,013, I believe. That's very close to that.
Again, 70 hours a week, right? 10 hours a day, 70 hours a week.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I said month.
No, it sounds like there is some. I talked also recently, interviewed Sharon Bousquet, the Highgate Town Administrator, and I think you had some hopes, or maybe in the future, you've talked regional policing, Bill, and I know you spoke with the folks in Highgate, but I guess they've decided they're about to lose St. Albans City Police Department coverage on June 30th. Yes. And they're going to pick up. I guess they've already got a deal with the Sheriff's Department. But you had some hopes that you might get Highgate involved, or not at this point?
In the future, yes.
In the future.
So we have to have the ability in the advance notice to scale up. It's a much bigger conversation. So just this week, I won't name the town administrator, but a town administrator reached out and said, are you willing to at least facilitate a conversation amongst interested Franklin County town administrators and or select boards to have a conversation about what it would look like? I think long term, whether it's 2025 to 2029, whatever it looks like, there's going to be a need, a demand for more comprehensive regionalized policing and those concepts. And I do believe that Leaders need to get in the room and have the courage to be creative, create an org chart, a structure, share your grand list, talk about what is fair and equitable, and then bring that back to your governance boards to have a dialogue. Eliminate who's not interested and move forward with who is interested. Our priority remains providing professional level, dedicated police services to the citizens we serve, to include the village and the town, and hopefully that expands in the future. It's got to be a much bigger dialogue than what we're having right now. But it does come back to, and I encourage you, because I know you're in a great position to have these dialogues, the One Swanton concept comes up often.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing it a lot now, because One Swanton, what we're really offering is, in 2025 and beyond, One Swanton in terms of policing. We would love to see a collaboration that allows us to take the village off the patch, Swanton Police Department. The cost would be equal. So I keep hearing the 50-50. We literally would share the grand list the same way we share the fire department, and every member would pay the same penny for policing services.
Of course, St. Albans City and Town come to mind as of July 1st.
It's a great model.
City and Town will, and that is equal.
Yes.
Town and city will be paying equally for police coverage. So you're talking merger. I mean, ideally, you think it would just make things easier if there was a merger. You're not talking about that step's not necessary, but
no, I'm simply pointing out that what we're hearing in these forums are, if we were One Swanton, we're trying to be One Swanton just as it relates to police.
Okay.
We're hearing the pushback. The reality of merger or policing coverage. The tax base, the tax rate for the village is going to go down, and the town is going to go up significantly. So I guess it gives us pause for what the bigger conversation for merger or One Swanton, if we really can't even get around the concept and our arms around the concept of One Swanton Police.
What do you think? I'm sure you were concerned about the 19.9 million, maybe a tough sell for voters. How do you feel about the revised proposal, the smaller price tag? I can only assume you think you have a shot at this. Do you think you've got a realistic shot to get approval of this? Do you got a pretty good feel for that?
I hope the village voters think it through as much as we have, or almost as much as we have. We have to do something. We all recognize, the board recognized, Bill recognized that it's a hell of an increase in cost. But if we do nothing, we're going to be in a world of worry. And is there alternatives? I'm sure there are, but what's going to happen in the meantime while we're reconsidering an alternative plan? And I'm thinking that it will, with this revised proposal, as long as we get that building, so we can move our public service to an acceptable area, that if the voters approve the bond, we'll, like we said originally, we will significantly decrease the cost of that bond with funding. It's a gamble. But life's a gamble, and it depends on how much you want to gamble. You want to gamble on not keeping our community safe, because the crime is increasing multiple times. I mean, it's increasing wicked in our Franklin County, and our PD is really busy, and they're doing a good job handling it. So if we don't go to bond, what's going to happen to our community safety, and who's going to take care of it? Yes, it's a gamble, and we're hoping that the revised proposal will pass, but we'll see. Voters ultimately will decide.
And how much of a tax hit are we talking with the revised proposal? Can you give some rough numbers there?
Yeah, so I can. It's two different things. You separate out the square footage of the new building.
Yeah.
There's police specific, there's fire specific square footage, and then anything shared in the middle, kind of split 50-50.
And again, this is one new building for both PD and FD.
Correct. So
Okay.
one long purpose-built building where you have fire on the side closest to First Street, and then shared space, and then the police department on the other end. So roughly a $250 increase on the fire department side on a $250,000 home. And then roughly, I think I have the numbers here. So again, the fire department concept is different because we already have a long-standing formula with the town on, right, the town is made up of 77% of Swanton's residents.
Okay.
The village 23.
Okay.
So, but everybody to the penny pays the same for fire department services currently, and we believe that that would be the same formula moving forward for the portion of the bond that is related to the fire department.
Okay.
So on the fire side, that is, I was close, 200 and, actually stand by. Marginal increase this year, literally $1 and change. And then that's based on operating budget. With the bond cost, so the bond cost for the fire department portion alone is $741,000 annually for 30 years. Again, that's assuming a rate of 4.75%. We know in all likelihood, we're being told it will be fairly significantly less than that, but it's unknown until it's time. But any decrease is a benefit for us.
Sure.
That results in the bond payment for the town of $571,000 a year, which does equate to $256 additionally annually for a $250,000 home. Be the same impact on the village to the penny. On the police department side, the obligation on the town side is up to the voters.
Right.
100%. So what we would do is if we get a successful bond vote in the village, of course we're going to take the annual operating cost of the organization. We're going to incorporate the building bond into that. So it's anticipated to be about $457,000 worst case scenario. Let's call it $450 for even math.
Okay.
We would take 1/3 of that under the current construct. So say in 2025, it was still just a 10-hour a day, 70-hour a week contract. We would wrap that $150,000 into that as part of the operational cost. We would seek and do the same thing for all of these communities that are knocking on our door right now, saying, can we have some of this coverage? What would it look like? We'll take the operational cost of that bond and wrap it into those contracts as well, lessening the impact on our village voters.
Boy, that's big issues, and you're spending a lot of time on this. Time frames, if you get approval for the $14.8 million.
Yeah, shovel would go in the ground September, October of this year. 12 to 15 months. Of course, any bond, you pay the interest in the first year and then the full amount of the bond in following years. So the bond impact is either 2025, not likely, probably 2026 is when we would start paying the large amount of the bond, which does give us time to seek out these partners, have this discussion and dialogue. And I would actually, and we've talked about this, Richard, I'd love to come back with Chief Matt Sullivan and have a dialogue. We're often accused of, if you talk about and articulate all the things that are going on in your community crime-wise, that it's a scare tactic.
Yeah.
The reality is that we have a substance abuse problem.
Yeah.
It's being fueled by our citizens who have the thirst and the desire and the need for that, which is sad. Yeah. But it's bringing up an element, largely from out of state, that are dealing in our community, whether it's all of Franklin County, but specifically in Swanton. And it leads to, whether we want to recognize this or not, I hope most citizens do. We had the homicide a couple of years ago on First Street. Yeah. We've had at least 3 cases since then in the last 2 years where either people have been a target of ours. One example, we did a search warrant in Enosburg. We arrested the gentleman, pretty significant state-level cocaine charge, released a couple weeks later, goes down to Massachusetts, commits a homicide. Really? Multiple homicides. Wow. 2 other cases where the 2 people that were executed in Burlington not that long ago, a couple months ago, One of them were a active target of a drug investigation in the village of Swanton. If we don't address the behavior and we don't disperse those people, those homicides occur in our backyard. And so there's at least 4 examples where people have either committed homicides or been executed with distinct direct ties to our community. And I'd love to say that we've now solved the problem and it's going away, but it's not. We used to do 6 to 7 search warrants a year in the village of Swanton. We did over 50 last year. I believe 53. We've done multiple already this year. We work very closely with St. Albans City, I guess now St. Albans, and Chief Mo Lamoth. We just this past weekend did a search warrant there and recovered all kinds of drugs and stolen property, all originating from a case in either the town or village of Swanton. So crime's not going away. And we take seriously the opportunity to deliver those types of professional services to the citizens.
Yeah, I'd be happy to sit down with you and the chief anytime. Gene, do you get the sense you've been a trustee for a long time? Is crime, does that seem to be a much bigger concern on the part of voters or residents of Swanton these days, you think, than it used to be? Or
It certainly is a lot more than it used to be. And part of this discussion that hasn't been really brought up yet to any great extent is, we used to be able to depend on the state police for coverage. And they have a problem with they're getting people that want to do that job.
Huge stuff. And what's I think you've told me troopers down like 60, Bill, in the state?
They're better than that. They had a good class. They're in the 50s now.
But still significant.
We were never designed, and of course, for those that haven't heard this, I did 30 years in the Vermont State Police, for the last 11 as the second in command. I have been retired for 6 years, and then I ran the police academy. The number of officers that are fully certified in the state of Vermont are now under 1,000 total. There's no line out the door for people to get in what is often an unwelcoming environment, certainly from the people you interact with and the citizens you serve. We're fortunate. We're only as good as our leadership. But back to the state police, they were never designed. We were never designed from inception to do full services for 212 communities. In particular, not with the fact that they're concentrating, as they should, on violent crime and the homicides and their core services. And they're trying to do all that down over 50 vacancies.
The state police, do they still do contracts with state police? Do they have contracts with some towns, or do they not even do that anymore?
I believe they have an agreement with Waterbury that's a hybrid agreement. And other than that, I don't think they have the staffing to be able to do any of that.
It sounds like you fared very well with Swanton PD, again, fully staffed. How have you managed, when you came on the job, was it fully staffed then? Has that been the case for a while?
Yeah, it was. Here's what I've had to do with it. Absolutely nothing. No influence. We're only as good as our leader. And while I'm the village manager, we have an outstanding police chief. So I have 10 direct reports, and I'm very fortunate that they all are a high caliber. In law enforcement, Matt Sullivan was the number 2 at Burlington. Burlington did the defund police. Bad for them, good for us. We got more than 1 full-time officer because of them.
Interesting.
But the other example, and I can't state this enough, we're in a very unique position. Because of Matt's leadership, there is a line out the door of full-time certified folks that would come work for us tomorrow.
Really?
Number of factors: good leadership, a supportive governance structure, generally a supportive citizenry, and that goes a long way.
Oh, good for you folks. Yeah, it sounds like you're in a different situation than a lot of other places. So again, you have a lot more public. Again, big vote, big issue coming up, and hardly the only issue. I guess we should talk other issues in your budget. Nothing else of particular note. Anything else much different in the?
Nothing is notable, noticeable as this. And
that's true.
It's what another thing that we're hoping for, like what Bill was saying about the crime rate. I hope. When I said before the citizens consider the situation, I hope they consider that before their vote too, and the need that we have for this facility. But there are other issues that we have on the board. But the reason, excuse me, the reason we put on so many open houses is to draw people in. our voter turnout has been real minimal. We've been supportive, but we would like to get more of the majority in to inform them where we're going, and we're hoping that they come out in force.
In fact, makes me think of and you got voter approval for the wastewater facility upgrade.
Yeah.
Significant approval with a turnout of, I don't know, 50, 75 or something.
124.
No, a little off, but still, percentage-wise, tiny.
Less than 8%.
Less than 8%. Yeah. But speaking of that, you got voter approval for that. Is that will there be work on that coming up this year, Bill?
Yes, there better be.
There better be.
Yeah, there's going to be work on a lot of projects, but it's currently in the bid process. In particular, starting with a centrifuge, and that's really what dewaters our waste and is the most effective piece that we have for our solid waste down there. I anticipate that we will go out to bid and actually start that process. It's not going to be complete in 24. Yeah. To be clear, that's a 2025 completion date, but the construction is due to start this year.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't at least ask you about the relicensing of the Highgate Dam, Swanton Village Electric. Well, it sounds like if you had nothing else to deal with, that would keep you busy. But how's that faring at this point?
It's progressing exactly as we expected. Yeah. So again, it's an April 2024 relicensing process. To be very clear, we're not going to meet that deadline. Nor does anyone really.
I was going to say that's not the problem. Those deadlines are often typically not met.
Correct. So what precedes you getting your FERC license relicensed is your ANR water certification, your 401. So we're doing all of the requisite reports, all the environmental studies. We have another follow-up meeting with Agency of Natural Resources this month. And it triggers a continual process. And the process essentially always is, you have studied this, we accept this, what about this? It's almost like a negotiation. Really? To determine what they want to do. What we don't want to do is lose our ability to minimally peak and produce peak power when the need arises. Yeah. Very important for us. Again, Swanton Electric, and as a subset, our hydroelectric facility, we're the third lowest rate in the state of Vermont, and it's in large part because we're 100% renewable. What we typically, on an average year, produce 80% of our own electricity through our hydro.
80%,
roughly,
sure.
On average. So that's big, and that's part of it. And I believe some of the negotiation on the part of the Agency of Natural Resources would include things like, how about you remove the Lower Swanton Dam?
I was about to ask you about that. So you'll always be pressed by some folks in the state about that. It sounds like. Sure,
and that's natural. I mean, but that really is about 8 miles downstream from where we're producing power. Yeah. Has little impact on the function or form of what we're trying to do to produce renewable electricity. But it still seems to be tied in where perhaps it should not be.
Interesting. I mean, can the state, I guess that begs a question. I mean, there's some folks in the state saying, hey, you're not going to get your relicensing unless you get rid of that dam. Are there some folks who would like to hook that into that? Or, again, it's not totally, I mean, it's a separate issue to some extent.
It's supposed to be. They're supposed to be separate and distinct processes. They're tied together for sure. Yeah. And you must get your water certification, your 401, through the Agency of Natural Resources, State of Vermont, before you go to the next step, which is your FERC license.
And from our past conversations, it sounds like dealing with the state just sounds like that's been more onerous, whatever the word you want. It just sounds like that's
a polite way of saying it.
Polite way to say it. But it just sounds like dealing with the state about this sounds like a lot more difficult than dealing with the feds. Mm-hmm.
It's all part of the process, and we understand and respect the process. We understand the needs and what they're trying to do. We just at times perhaps see it a slightly different way.
Yeah. Yeah. When do you hope to get this done? Again, you're not going to make the April deadline. When have you got a hope for?
We literally have a January. It's late January meeting where our FERC attorney and our scientist present to the Agency of Natural Resources. That's the next step. So everything depends on what the outcome of that meeting is.
Yeah. Interesting. Gene, this will get done at some point.
I certainly hope. I certainly hope so. But I think when they have the meeting in January, it's my guess that they'll bring up the subject that hasn't been brought up before. And that will delay the process, and that seems to fit their agenda, whatever that agenda is. And I'm not really sure what the agenda is. I'm not very sure you do.
I do not.
So, but you have to deal with them, and we're trying to do that in a very professional manner by using really good scientists and a good administrator that deals with FERC all the time. I mean, I think he's retired now, but he's dealt with them for years.
Yes.
Interesting.
And I respect him.
Anything you want to add to this conversation?
I thought you were going to ask me about the Riviera Hotel project.
In fact, the river's on my list. I'll show you on my notebook.
I knew we'd get there.
The river's on
I was going to bring it up if you didn't, so.
No, let's jump. Anything you want to add to the relicensing?
No, nothing I can add to that. Gene and Bill kind of, it's a frustrating process, but we have to do it. So, like Gene says, we're trying to be as professional about it as we can be and still get the job done. But it is frustrating. It's similar, not as extended, but it's a similar process of what we've been going through with the Riviera Hotel project.
Really?
But that is, the building is down, as you know. A couple of weeks ago, the environmental engineers were in there taking some more borings, samples, and we're waiting for their report as to what we have to do to mitigate the soil, and then send out some requests for proposals for an interested party to buy it, purchase it, and put some sort of housing on it. That's what we're hoping for. But we're waiting for the environmental engineers to give us a report.
You must have mentioned this before. The soil issue, why is it? Where did that issue come from? Why would that? It was a hotel. Was that just, vehicles?
That's a brownfields issue.
But where did that? Why is that? And why did that? Where did that come from on that site?
Some of it is justified. There was a fuel oil tank in the front yard, and we took care of that. And unbeknownst to us, as the brownfields process went on, they had to do some borings to make sure the whole site was clear, and they found some materials in the soil down a couple feet, and then they were going to go deeper to see how bad it was. So theoretically, we might have to remove the top layer of soil and refill it in before developing it. But that's their ball game. That they're going to tell us what we'll have to do. So certainly unexpected, as you say. There's no. I wouldn't think there would be any toxic material in there, but they found something that needs to be addressed. So.
Seems like I've heard anything like that, anything that's dug out of there has to be taken out of state, or am I crazy about that?
No, there are still some in-state locations. And to clarify, we don't have the full report, but we will get a report essentially saying, here's how you need to remediate to get a certificate of completion. And then we will do that. We're working with Northwest Regional Planning. We're getting brownfields funds to do this mitigation. We're talking about benzene something, which is coal ash. So there was a coal heat plant at some point there, and that's near the pit. So we're not talking about methyl ethyl, something really, really bad. We're talking about something that's commonly found, does need to be mitigated properly. We'll do that, and then we'll take the appropriate steps.
Interesting. And again, housing, the thinking is the village would end up selling that land and housing the likeliest thing to come out of that, likeliest...
That's, one of the proposals, multiple family housing, whatever. And the governor and the state is looking for more housing. That would be a perfect spot. We'll see, but we'll make the decision after we get proposals from interested parties to see what's going to happen then.
Boy, housing, talk about another huge issue statewide, obviously. I know the folks in Highgate, which you're well aware of, very happy about Cathedral Square and I guess a 30-unit housing project for the elderly. Sounds like a pretty solid project that they hope they can move ahead on in the village core area.
Yeah.
Any other housing initiatives going on in the village at this point? Or
Biggest housing issue is for the fire department and police department.
That was good.
Another issue, I know you've got some work on the highway bridge, Route 36 highway bridge over the Missisquoi with what, a water line issue? Is that the...
So no, the water line issue is separate. So we do break ground. GW Tetro was awarded the contract to put what's a redundant, it's a replacement water line for the water line on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Bridge, Depot Street Bridge, Route 78. So we're out because it has multiple names.
No, sorry, I didn't even get the Route 36 not far away. But sorry, Route 78. Thank you for correcting.
So we will start that that water line. It's been awarded. They just couldn't get to it in the fall, but that involves vertical drilling. Going down under the bridge under the river 35 feet, connecting. Then we will keep the water line on the bridge as a redundant line, but we do have a critical need RFP out to fix the expansion joints on either side of the bridge. We have $200,000 in grant funding. We have identified, and in our proposed budget, we've added another $200,000, hoping that will be enough to fix those, and that will be a fix that hopefully will last until the bridge is replaced in 2029 or beyond, but we're on target to be replaced by this date, 2029.
The work you're talking about, will they keep one lane open? Will the bridge be still open during all this work?
The answer is we hope not. We hope to keep no lanes open. So the RFP includes somebody with the ability to work extra hours, and the reward for all of us are if we could shut it down for a number of days and reroute traffic, which they studied, and we know we can, BB Road and around.
By my house.
It's
you'll see a little more traffic. But my friend Mr. Patch will see a little more traffic.
Yes, but over the long term, that pain of several days is much less than the pain of one lane. Not to mention, the last time we did an RFP for that, 40% of the cost was traffic control. We'd like to eliminate that with message boards and concrete barriers. Much safer for the workers, hopefully more cost effective for us.
Speaking of traffic, truck traffic, easy to think of Swanton. I mean, even whenever I'm up there, you think I'd know this after 50 years up here, but whenever I'm in Swanton, I'm just struck by the truck traffic. But I guess hope with the highway north of the Highgate Springs border, and I guess they're working on it and stuff. But once that gets done, some hope that would be a bit of a decrease in truck traffic.
That's what we're hoping.
That's the hope anyway.
Yeah.
Have we got a deadline? I hear references to that project. Are we still talking a couple years, or who knows?
No, I think it's supposed to be this year.
I guess the work's going on, because when you head just north of the border, they keep changing on Route 133 what you have to do to. Anyway, so hopefully not too far away.
Let's go with 2024.
2024. Interesting. Down to about 5 minutes. Other issues you want to jump into, or go back on your big vote, but any other issues you want that we haven't touched on? Gene, anything else come to mind you want to talk about?
Yes, actually. I'd like to get rid of the trucks. I was asking on the way over here, how long are some of these trailers? And Bill answered me, 55 feet?
53 feet.
53 feet or something?
Wow. A lot of them.
And you can see it. Wow. I mean, the trucks are one right after another.
Yeah.
And I noticed something this morning, actually. I was out early, I guess early for me, around 7:30, 7:45, and the amount of traffic that is going to our various schools. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And the question for you, actually, I saw them backed up in front of the village office all the way back down to Pine Street at least. And I guess they're going to the high school. I assume. I don't know.
It gets backed up naturally every morning, whether you're talking about people that are navigating Dunkin' Donuts, believe it or not.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
There. High school backs up. Mary Babcock School certainly backs up.
Yes, certainly. I drove over that way just to find out after I saw the First Street back up. And it was backed up from the entrance on 4th Street all the way to Grand Avenue, trying to get into the school.
Really?
So that's just another issue.
Maybe legislature, can the Vermont legislature do anything for you? Anything you're hoping to get out of the legislature that could help the village or Bill or Jane? Or maybe you're just hoping they don't harm you in some ways or something.
That's the better way to put it.
Yeah.
In fact, I can flash right back to one of your predecessors, Mr. League. I remember asking him the same question. He said, "Richard, I hope they do nothing. If they just, didn't even show up and stuff, that would help us."
Well, I don't know what specifically the legislature could do for us, but the state. I wish the state would be more cooperative with our community and the smaller communities in general, because it would be so much safer for us and easier for us to do the right thing if they would play ball with us, so to speak. But I can't see anything directly that would affect us now, unless it would be funding for our new structure or our downtown, which we're moving forward with that too. That is kind of out of the spotlight, but downtown Swanton is moving along. We have some new businesses, some vibrant businesses down there, and we have plans to increase the parking on the south end of Merchants Row and do some streetscaping. There's a lot of positive things that have been inundated by the larger projects, but there's a lot of positive going on, and I hope the voters will, the local voters will go along with some of our plans for the betterment of our community. But the state, we're hoping they'll get in on the game too.
Right. And speaking of the larger issue, again, the biggie, the revised proposal now, $14.8 million. But again, sounds like a chance, and you'd love to see, obviously, a lot of folks jump into some of these open houses. You have a lot more coming up, and I'm sure you're hoping people will at least listen to you and make your case.
Yeah, we'll make the final push. The only thing we want is for people to come in, ask any questions that they have, be educated. And then we will absolutely, of course, respect the will of the voters and adjust accordingly. But we're hopeful. We understand it's a big ask. It's a vision. It's a lot of trust for things where we have no crystal ball. We are working diligently to try to identify all of those collaborative partnerships with other communities that will make this less impactful for our folks, for our citizens.
Okay, I guess on that note, quickly, Neil.
One thing we want to get out there, we do appreciate all of the support that the village voters have given us, and we trust that they'll use their best judgment moving forward. We really do appreciate their input, whether it's at our meetings or a phone call or whatever, but they've been very supportive in the past, even before Bill got on board, and we trust that will continue.
Okay, on that positive note, thanks to Swanton Village President Neil Spear, Swanton Village Manager Bill Sheets, Swanton Village Trustee Jean LeBombard. Thanks for the time. You covered a lot of ground. Thanks to producer Josh Pryor, who's doing all the hard work out there. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. We appreciate you watching us here on Northwest Access TV. See you next time.